Hello! Happy Vlogmas. I decided to go ahead and do the Vlogmas thing. So today I am depotting my most recent Juvia's Place palettes, and I figured a lot of people asked me how I did it, so I'm gonna give a short tutorial and you guys can hang out with me while I do this because it's really boring. So just to kind of give some background, I depotted all of my eyeshadow. They live in this drawer right here. And it is really important because I have a really small space. I live in a small apartment in the city, and storage, efficient storage is really important. So that's why I went about depotting everything, and these two I got recently along with the Kat Von D Saint and Sinner palette and the Anastasia Subculture palette. And the reason why these two have not been depotted yet is that it's because of a special circumstance that we're going to talk about. But Juvia's Place pans are not magnetic. The metal that they use is not magnetic, so I had to buy stickers for them. So far, Juvia's Place and Morphe are the only, and like some of the more affordable brands like Pure, and a couple of other ones, they don't have magnetic pans, so if you run across that, you need to buy these little stickers, which you can get on Amazon, and I'll show you here in a second. Before I get started, I just want to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Depotting is not for everybody. I know that people really enjoy packaging, and I think that the art on these is absolutely stunning. However, I do not need my eyeshadows to be in here for me to be able to enjoy this art and this packaging. So, to each their own. I need the eyeshadows out of here to be most efficient, but that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate the packaging, that I don't like it, or that I don't think that people who, find it to be an incredibly important part of their makeup experience, that I think that they are wrong. This is just what I need to do and what works for me. My current idea for what I'm doing with my leftover palettes is that I'm going to make picture frames out of them. But that might change. So without any further ado, let's get started. I have the palettes that are being depotted. I have a little bird's beak knife, and I have a Sharpie. I have rubbing alcohol, which hopefully we won't need to use, but if we do, I will say what it is for. I have Carmex for my lips, I have liquid fuel, I have solid fuel, and I have an empty magnetic palette, like so. This one happens to have actually a very nice mirror. Juvia's Place palettes are entirely cardboard. This is in contrast to palettes like Anastasia Beverly Hills, which are cardboard and plastic. Kat Von D's are that way, and in contrast to entirely plastic palettes. So each one, you're going to approach the depotting differently, and if I ever, acquire others, I will be sure to register that depotting process too. But if you look at the way that this is constructed, you have, I don't know if you can really see it. There you go. This lip here tells me that this square part is sitting on top of this back, and I know that from previous ones that I have depotted. So I take this guy under here, and I start prying around the back. Let's see if you can, like so. And I'm just bringing it in here and just kind of gently prying it up. And we'll see why this works once we get this off. When you're doing this, and this is true throughout the entire process, be very careful to not bend the pans or bend the shadows. that is what will cause them to break and what will cause us to need the rubbing alcohol, and we don't want to do that. So this lifted off. As you can see, it's its own contained unit with kind of a sleeve that is mounted onto. And it's this part that I typically keep because that's where the pretty art is. So I'm going to throw that aside. And then, if memory serves, there is another kind of 2 layers of cardboard here, and one of them is this circular doodad here, and one of them is the back. And so we're going to try and get those 2 apart from each other. Yeah. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay. I'm not used to videoing anymore, so if something goes out of focus or anything like that. So see how this is prying up and it's separating from the eyeshadows. That's exactly what we want. We're not touching the back. We're just looking at this because as soon as we start touching the back, we start bending the shadows, and we want to get as much of this excess away before we do that. You will always get eyeshadow on your hands. I recommend having a towel on hand just to kind of wipe it off, and just kind of expect to have to wash your hands afterwards. I would also not recommend doing this in clothing that you are afraid will be ruined because the shit gets everywhere. So it's like partially prying motions, partially sliding motions. That's using the sharp end of the knife to cut through this cardboard. Now, the Juvia's Place palettes are in a lot of ways the easiest eyeshadows to depot, and in some ways they're the hardest. This method of packaging right here is what makes them the easiest. We can just peel back all of this stuff instead of prying the eyeshadow. And when you depot from like plastic palettes, you have to, well, at least using my method, you pry the eyeshadow out, and that causes the pan to bend, which causes breakage. I know that there are some depotters out there who use heat. And for plastic packaging, they use heat, and that causes the glue underneath to melt, and then the pans come right out. I don't know if that is an acceptable method for this, but I don't like using heat, partially because I don't like the way a hairdryer sounds, but also I don't really know what that does to the eyeshadow, so I'm not gonna risk it. I know how to fix a broken eyeshadow, so I'm more willing and comfortable doing that than risking like melting it or something. And I don't know really if that's a feasible possibility. It is admittedly something that I have not researched, but it's also not super applicable for today. I would say that it is a common misconception that softer shadows are harder to depot. I find that drier shadows and mattes are the hardest, and that's because a soft shadow, because it's softer, it will bend when you bend the pan, as opposed to a matte. It's not as it doesn't have as much moisture in it, so it's not going to bend as much. So now I have pretty much the dregs here. I have this cardboard guy. It's in 2 pieces, but we don't need to worry about separating them. And then we have the pans, which are glued directly on top. So I'm going to take my guy. So you may be tempted to go in with your knife and start prying up from here, but that will bend the pans. So my recommendation is instead to peel the back That way, most of the motion is on the cardboard and not on the pan. And there you go. Starting from the corners is helpful. You can go ahead and like take this layer off. If this is your first time, you might want to do that. Let's go ahead and see this opening here. So taking this and bending it backwards. Gonna try and keep the pan steady. Come on. Look. There we go. So as you can see, like Juvia's glues the pan straight to the cardboard, which is a perfectly acceptable packaging method. And other brands will glue it directly to plastic, which is a little bit harder to get them out. This is so pretty. If you haven't picked up a Juvia's Place palette, I don't know why you'd be watching this video if you haven't, but if you haven't, I highly recommend. They're gorgeous. I have yet to get a shadow from there that I didn't think was absolutely stunning. Okay, here we go. Now I have this guy and all of this stuff, which is going to get trashed. Let me grab my trash bag. So as you can see, this is not magnetic, it's not sticking, it's not doing anything, so it needs a little help. You can order these magnetic sticker backs on Amazon. These are from Z Palette, and the ones that I have another set from like an off-name brand, but they were not very good. Sorry. Here I have some cardboard, and I'm gonna just go ahead and finish peeling that off. I bought a pair of stickers or a set of stickers from another brand, and they just weren't. They're not very magnetic, and so. Actually, take it back. I'm gonna just leave it on there. And then I take my Sharpie and I write the brand and the palette name. So this will be Juvia's Place, Saharan 2. Ta-da! So now we're going to close this up and do the magic palette. Okay, I'm a bit of a liar. I did absolutely depot the magic palette on camera, but after reviewing the footage, I decided I wanted to make that a separate video because there are a couple of special circumstances in that deserve a more in-depth thing, and I also wanted to make sure to get a really short video up for people who are just looking to get into depotting. So I hope that you enjoyed that video, and I will hopefully get better at editing and shooting as the month goes on. Thanks for watching, and I will probably see you tomorrow. Bye!